Alright, let's dive into something that's been weighing on my mind lately. A story that's not just about immigration policy, but about human connection, dependency, and the ripple effects of decisions made in courtrooms far removed from the lives they impact. I'm talking about the recent changes to Temporary Protected Status, TPS, and how it's upending the lives of older Americans and the Haitian caregivers they rely on. Personally, I think this is one of those stories that, on the surface, seems like it's just about legal technicalities, but if you take a step back and think about it, it's really about the fabric of communities and the people who hold them together. Here's the hook. Imagine being 91 years old, like Solange French, and having your entire daily routine, your meals, your showers, your doctor's appointments, dependent on someone who's not just a caregiver, but a friend, a confidant, almost family. Now imagine that person, Martha Nelson, is at risk of being deported because of a policy change. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just about one person losing their job. It's about a system that's failing both the vulnerable elderly and the immigrants who've become their lifelines. What makes this really interesting is how it highlights the interconnectedness of these lives and how quickly that can unravel. From my perspective, the TPS changes aren't just a political move, they're a human one. When the Supreme Court ruled in favor of ending TPS for 350,000 Haitians and 6,000 Syrians, it wasn't just a legal decision, it was a decision that affects real people, real relationships. Take Solange and Martha, for example. They're not just caregiver and client, they're two women who've built a bond over years of shared mornings, meals, and conversations in Haitian Creole. One thing that immediately stands out is how these policies strip away the humanity of these relationships, reducing them to mere legal statuses. It's not just about work permits, it's about the emotional labor these caregivers provide, the sense of security they bring to people who are already vulnerable. What this really suggests is that our immigration system is failing to account for the human cost of these decisions. I mean, think about it. Martha came to the U.S. after the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, built a life here, paid taxes, and now faces the impossible choice of either staying illegally or returning to a country ravaged by violence and poverty. In my opinion, this isn't just a policy gap, it's a moral one. We're essentially forcing people like Martha into the shadows, where they'll have to work underground, constantly fearing deportation, while the people they care for, like Solange, are left wondering who'll be there to help them tomorrow. A detail I find fascinating is how this issue intersects with the broader caregiving crisis in the U.S. Immigrants make up a disproportionate number of caregivers, about 1/3 of home health aides, according to PHI. These are the people who are often the last line of defense for the elderly and disabled before they're institutionalized. If you take a step back and think about it, we're essentially dismantling a system that's already on the brink of collapse. Care facilities are already short-staffed, and now they're losing workers who've become integral to their operations. This raises a deeper question: who's going to fill these roles? And at what cost to the quality of care? What many people don't realize is that this isn't just a problem for the individuals involved, it's a societal one. When caregivers like Martha are forced to leave, it's not just Solange who suffers, it's the entire healthcare system. Facilities will scramble to find replacements, overwork their remaining staff, and likely compromise the level of care they provide. From my perspective, this is a classic example of a short-sighted policy that creates long-term problems. We're essentially trading one crisis for another. One thing that immediately stands out is the emotional toll this takes on everyone involved. Take Anna Fishbein, an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor who lost her Haitian caregiver of 10 years. She didn't just lose a worker, she lost a friend. This is what happens when we reduce these relationships to mere transactions. What this really suggests is that we need to rethink how we value caregiving as a society. It's not just a job, it's a vital service that deserves respect, stability, and protection. If you take a step back and think about it, this story is a microcosm of larger trends in immigration and labor. We rely heavily on immigrant labor, especially in caregiving roles, but we don't provide them with the security or support they need. Personally, I think this is a reflection of how we view immigrants in general, as temporary, replaceable, rather than as integral members of our communities. What makes this really interesting is how it challenges us to reconsider who we consider essential and how we treat them. In my opinion, the TPS changes are just the tip of the iceberg. They're a symptom of a larger issue, our failure to create an immigration system that's both humane and practical. We're not just losing caregivers, we're losing trust, stability, and the very idea of America as a place of opportunity. What this really suggests is that we need to have a broader conversation about immigration reform, one that takes into account the human stories behind the policies. So, here's my closing thought. As we watch these changes unfold, let's not forget the faces and stories behind the statistics. Let's not forget Solange and Martha, Anna and her caregiver, and the countless others whose lives are being upended. This isn't just a policy issue, it's a moral one. And if we don't address it, we're not just failing immigrants, we're failing ourselves. What do you think? How can we create a system that works for everyone? Let me know in the comments below.